Imagine being a young girl whose only dream is to go to school. Imagine living in a place where holding a book, raising your hand in class, or simply walking through the school gates is considered an act of defiance. For most of us, education is a given. For Malala Yousafzai, it was a battle worth risking her life for. Her journey is not just about surviving a tragedy, it is about resilience, unshakable courage, and the unstoppable power of a single voice to change the course of history. This is the story of Malala Yousafzai, how a girl from a small valley in Pakistan rose from the darkness of violence to become a shining global symbol of hope and empowerment. Malala was born in 1997 in Mingora, a town in Pakistan's Swat Valley. Her father, Logan Inspire, was a teacher and an activist. He believed in the power of education and ran a school that welcomed both boys and girls. From the very beginning, he encouraged Malala to dream bigger than her circumstances, to use her mind and voice fearlessly. Malala grew up surrounded by books, debates, and the belief that education was her right, not a privilege. Unlike many girls in her community who were expected to stay home, she was raised to challenge norms, ask questions, and pursue knowledge with passion. But as Malala was growing, her valley was changing. In 2007, the Taliban took control of the Swat Valley. With them came strict rules, oppression, and violence. Television was banned, music was silenced, and most devastating of all, girls were forbidden from attending school. Imagine being told that your dreams are illegal, that sitting in a classroom is a crime, that your voice as a girl is not meant to be heard. For many children, the fear was enough to silence them, but not Malala. At just 11 years old, she began writing anonymously for the BBC, using a pen name through her blog. She described life under Taliban rule, the fear of walking to school, the explosions that shook her valley, the classmates who disappeared one by one. Her words painted a vivid picture of courage in the face of darkness, and soon, the world began to notice, but courage always comes with a cost. On October 9th, 2012, Malala was riding a bus home from school when a gunman boarded, asked for her by name, and shot her in the head. The bullet that was meant to silence her became the spark that amplified her voice across the globe. For days, Malala's survival was uncertain. She was flown to the United Kingdom for treatment, undergoing multiple surgeries and months of recovery. The world watched, prayed, and waited. Against all odds, Malala survived, and when she opened her eyes, she chose not to retreat into silence, but to speak even louder. Malala could have stopped. She could have chosen to live quietly, away from danger, but she didn't. Instead, she stood before the world as a survivor, a fighter, and an advocate for millions of girls who still longed for education. On her 16th birthday, Malala stood before the United Nations, wearing a shawl that once belonged to Benazir Bhutto, the first female prime minister of Pakistan. With a voice clear and fearless, she declared, "One child, one teacher, one book, and one pen can change the world." That speech echoed across nations. It wasn't just a speech. It was a movement. Malala was no longer just a girl from the Swat Valley. She was a global symbol of hope, resilience, and justice. Malala co-founded the Malala Fund, an organization dedicated to giving every girl 12 years of free, safe, and quality education. Through this fund, she turned her personal struggle into a global mission, fighting for girls in countries where education is still denied. From refugee camps in the Middle East to rural villages in Africa and Asia, Malala's voice reached classrooms that didn't exist yet, giving hope to children who had never held a book. World leaders, activists, and organizations joined her cause. Malala was no longer just a survivor of an attack. She became the voice of millions who had been silenced for generations. 2014, at just 17 years old, Malala became the youngest ever recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize. She stood not as a victim, but as a victor. The Nobel Committee recognized her unwavering fight for the right of all children to an education. But Malala didn't accept the award for herself. She accepted it on behalf of every child who dreams of a classroom, a notebook, and a chance to learn. She reminded the world that education is not charity, it is a right, and that empowering girls is not just about fairness, but about building stronger communities, economies, and nations. Malala's story teaches us that resilience is born in the darkest of moments. She was just a teenager when she faced violence, yet her courage was greater than the fear of death. Her life reminds us that no voice is too small to make a difference. You don't need wealth, fame, or power to change the world. You only need courage. The courage to speak, to stand, and to keep fighting for what is right. Malala also shows us that education is more than learning facts. It is about freedom, dignity, and opportunity. It is the foundation upon which dreams are built. Malala's journey from tragedy to global influence is not just her story. It is a message for all of us. She reminds us that even when the world tries to silence you, your voice can rise higher than ever. If Malala, at just 11 years old, could stand up to extremists and continue fighting after being shot, then what excuse do we have to stay silent about our own dreams, our own battles, our own opportunities to inspire change today. Malala continues her education at Oxford University, balancing her studies with her activism. She remains a tireless advocate for girls' rights and a living reminder that tragedy does not define us. Our response does. Her story is proof that one voice, no matter how young, no matter how small, can shake the world. Because courage is not the absence of fear, it is choosing to rise in spite of it. And just like Malala, your voice might be the one that changes the world.